Hello everyone. Today I will be featuring a slightly more in-depth commentary, this time featuring the Kitakaze. Now we can freeze the frame here for a second so we can actually look at what exactly we're facing on the enemy team. The important thing is, well, first of all, 4 DDs, which is, well, the Kitakaze deals extremely well with destroyers, but in general you want to farm everything. And DDs are some of the hardest targets to farm because they can torp you, they can spot you, they can do a lot of things to counter you. The other problem we have to deal with is of course the cruisers. Kronstadt, Cleveland, Atlanta. That's 3 different radar cruisers on the enemy team. Kronstadt long range radar and Cleveland and Atlanta, even though both shorter range, if you get caught in their radars, they're probably close enough to deal significant amounts of damage to you. And then of course we even have the Neptune added into the mix, who could be running radar, but more than likely in random battles people tend to run smoke Neptune. It will still be an issue though, because the Neptune is quite stealthy, and if he's supporting the destroyers, there's a lot of different forms of threat on the enemy team. And not too many battleships really to farm, only 3 of them. So in terms of optimal matchmaking for a destroyer, this really isn't it. We got lucky with no carrier at least. Still though, if we continue the game, what this tells us is we have to worry about 4 DDs and potentially 3 different radars, potentially even 4 different radars. So rushing into the D cap right away is not a good idea. You don't want to rush vulnerable capture points until you know where the enemy radars are positioned, because it is so very risky. First of all, you are going to be running into enemy DDs. Almost certainly. With 4 DDs on an enemy team, there's no way there isn't at least 1 or 2 DDs that are going to be pushing your cap as well. And if you don't know where the radars are, if you do end up fighting them, you might end up being horribly zerged by the combination of radar and firepower. So in this case, my Kitakaze, as you can see on the minimap, he's pushing the cap. I don't want to push it because I think it's far too risky, especially with the Kronstadt already pushing that flank with a radar, but I do want to help him out. And that's something you need to keep in mind. Even if you're not aggressively contesting the objective, you can still help out your teammate just by providing fire support. And Kitakaze is a key ship at doing that because it has so much firepower. As predicted, we already see DDs showing up. DDs are already pushing for this objective. I popped the smoke because I want to provide fire support for my Kitakaze while he is fighting there. And the Fletcher, of course, is one of the primary targets. Tashkent is very easy to outspot. Fletcher, on the other hand, is very stealthy. Note that I'm shooting sequential fire, which means I'm holding down mouse 1. Reason for that, the difference between running sequential and running basically shooting volleys is that sequential deals less DPM, because there's a small delay between holding down mouse 1 and when your guns actually fire. But it's usually easier to hit DDs that are actively maneuvering, like that DD was doing there. When you're not sure what they're going to do, if they're not going in a perfectly straight line and they're easy to hit, then usually sequential fire yields more damage, simply because you're landing more shells than if you're shooting volleys. I wait in the smoke until my torpedo reload is done. The Fletcher never crossed the island and the Tashkent was pretty far away, so there's no real risk of me being torped yet. I shoot my first volley and I'm gonna follow it up with a second as well, because we never saw the Tashkent really leave, and the Tashkent pushed quite aggressive before he got undetected. If you look at the minimap, you can see the last spotted position, something you should absolutely enable. He was last seen in that smoke. So I drop both my torps there. I am kind of prepared to move away, but there should be really no risk of torpedoes getting in here yet, and I'm just gonna wait and see what my torpedoes accomplish, because I think the Tashkent might be lurking, he might be waiting, the Fletcher might have even gone back. We don't really know what else is there, we're still missing some information. What is important though is that the Cleveland and Atlanta have been spotted on the minimap, and they've been spotted on the other side. So the only radar I have to really worry about here is that Kronstadt. And my torpedoes turn out really well. I actually land a hit, and I'm almost certain it is on the Tashkent that was in that smoke. So we are absolutely gonna sit around and lurk a bit, see if the Tashkent panics, if he starts running away from the smoke. We have a Kitakaze in the cap, so there's a high chance we will get vision of him. The Fletcher we shot earlier is now being rushed by the Jutland inside C, and he will most likely go down. And overall, we're just waiting. Smoke is fading. There we go. The Tashkent pops up. He was still sitting there too long. I guess he got really worried when he got so low. And thanks to our patience, we managed to secure the first kill And the Fletcher also goes down to the Jutland, so that's 3 DDs on the enemy team dead. We lost 1 ourselves, but this is already a significant advantage. The Neptune is also here, but we don't really want to be fighting the Neptune. That's not really there's no real good way for us to fight him. You don't want to fight Royal Navy cruisers in a DD. You almost never want to fight them. I mean, at long ranges, it's pretty okay, because they struggle to hit you, but close range, where they get to use their massive DPM, and with their hydro they have no real issues dodging your torps, it becomes a DPM battle. And Royal Navy cruisers with that AP, that short fuse AP that arms instantly, are gonna have no issues melting you. And we can see the Jutland is actually trying to rush them, but the Neptune is no doubt running hydro, so I expect to see every single torpedo miss, which is exactly what happens. And now he's stuck in a smoke. And I'm only waiting for him to get hydrated and killed. There's no way he's getting out of there. So this kind of insane aggression, don't do it. Not against, well, generally it's very risky against every type of ship, but against Royal Navy cruisers especially, because they're almost always running hydro, and they will almost always surprise you. Now, worth noting here, we're gonna freeze frame it briefly again. I got spotted while firing. Why did I get spotted while firing? Well, the only ship that could have spotted me was the Cleveland, because the whole idea was I use the Jutland smoke and I support him with firepower without being detected in the meanwhile. But it turns out the Cleveland has actually sailed all the way back and is now firing upon me from the enemy spawn. Now, when this happens, you need to consider how scary is a Cleveland really at that range. Light American cruisers aren't really that terrifying past 10 kilometers against the DD. Against other ships, sure, but against the destroyer at 11 kilometers, I'm not really too worried. So what happens is, the choice here is we really want an objective. Yes, we have a ship lead, but our Jutland is about to die, which is about to equalize the ship lead. So at this point you gotta weigh the risk. And at this point I think it's worth taking the risk of securing this objective for my team. As a trade-off for potentially taking some hits from the Cleveland. So that's what I decided to do. I turn away, of course, create distance, but we're not going to go full speed. We're actually slowing down. And the Cleveland shells go a bit wide. He's leading too much. He thinks I'm running away in a panic. I start reversing. And we get undetected because the bloom disappeared. So, and his radar is still not within range. And if the Myoko and Neptune try to push around, which is obviously a risk, we're going to preemptively torp here. Because there's a high chance that either Myoko or Neptune will push this flank, since they know I'm here, I'm detected, and of course a DD is a very juicy target for both of them. So launch the first volley of torps, torpedo reload, launch the second one. If you run torpedo reload, or when you run torpedo reload, should usually be in conjunction with your first volley, unless you're forced to run it. The camp is secured, and at this point I actually start gunboating the Cleveland. If he wants to shoot me, well, he has to give a ton of broadside, and even then, while the Cleveland DPM is very impressive, he's still gonna struggle to hit me. A fast-moving Kitakaze kiting away, yeah, he might get a hit or two, but I mean, look at my DPM, look how many hits I'm getting. This is not a fight you want to take in the Cleveland, because it's very hard to land shells on me. I have no issues landing shells on him. And with that thin Cleveland armor, it means I'm dealing full damage, and well, we basically melted that radar cruiser, and he's running for his life as it is. We get stuck a bit, but we're already behind the island, and my predictive torpedoes are actually perfect. The Myoko was turning in to push that objective, and he eats 2 of the torps right, well, it looks like one on the side, one on the nose, and he's down to 4k health, which makes him a very easy kill. On the other side though, the enemy team has been pushing the flank, so we're gonna start supporting them. Kronstadt has been too aggressive, he's very deep in on our side, and this time we don't smoke. You gotta keep this in mind. If we look, we can freeze frame it real fast again. And if we look at the minimap, what can really shoot me in my current position? Nothing really. The Atlanta, too far away to be able to shoot us. The Friede Grosse could potentially at 15 kilometers, not really a threat. The Neptune, the Myoko, the Cleveland, the King George, they are all still behind the island. So there's no real reason for me to smoke up, and there's no real reason for me to rush him either. So I'm just gonna stop my ship right here and just start farming him. Farm the Kronstadt until we get the kill on him. Because he has no armor, he's got no real survivability, he's got no real way of dealing with this incoming fire. All he's gonna do is melt and die. He pops the radar as a last-ditch effort, but that's not really too big of a deal, is it? Now, they will be pushing D, most likely, but once again, it's a Neptune that's pushing it. And as I mentioned, I don't really want to be fighting a Neptune. This is not an optimal fight to pick. This is, of all the targets remaining, this is probably one of the least ones I want to fight. On the other hand, they got a battleship in our spawn, horrendously overextended, all alone. He's trying to pull off some heroic flank, but usually when you find a battleship isolated like this, he becomes a prime target. We are still behind on points. We're about, what, 60-70 points behind. The Neptune is pushing the objective, but we're gonna start farming the Kitakaze. Once again, pay attention to the minimap. You see that island behind me? I sailed so that the island covers me from the Neptune. The Neptune can in fact not really hit me because I'm protected by the island right behind me. So the only one who can really hit me is this Kitakaze, but he's kinda got his hands full dealing with everything else. So, we're still saving our smoke. Why waste it? We don't have too many of these consumables, so we're not gonna be wasting it on stuff we really don't need to waste it on. Mayoko shows up, also tries to shoot me, but I'm stopping my ship. I'm actively reversing, accelerating. Basically, I'm making myself fairly unpredictable, and they are struggling to get any hits on me. Kitakaze is pushing pretty aggressive. I'm hoping he would go down a bit faster. He still had a damage con left, which he used, but if we can get some fires on him, that should be fine. We only have 2 smokes left, and this game is turning out to be pretty close, so I don't really want to be wasting my smoke in vain. So I'd rather take a bit of secondary damage from this Friedrich in return for making sure that I have 2 smokes available for the later parts of the game. Because another ship just went down, and well, we're now down to a 6 versus 7. I know the Neptune and the Mayoko are both pushing the D objective, and as we mentioned, Neptune is not a ship we really want to fight. The Cleveland, on the other hand, looks like he's actually aggressively pushing C. Meanwhile, my Kitakaze torps my Algerie. He threw torps into that mess. When you see 2 ships brawling like that, you don't throw torps into the mix, okay? There's such a risk of killing your teammate. And that Kitakaze was never gonna get out of there alive. So the only reason to throw torps into that mix was in the hopes of trying to steal the kill. You weren't actually trying to win the game. Now, I know that the King George was last seen sailing towards D, so those torpedoes that I'm sending out are actually being sent towards the battleship. The Neptune, unlikely to hit the torps. Mayoko, he's hiding really far back with that little health he has, but the King George was last spotted, you can see him on G6, and he's aggressively pushing D. So the torps there are to help me fight him later on in the game, because we're down to a 4 versus 7 at this point. The Cleveland is spotted, and I of course instantly open up. Surprisingly, I'm not detected. He does pop radar to counter me, not a surprising move, but I'm stopping my ship, and I mean, at this point it's just raw DPM. AP would be good, but we're just gonna play it safe with the HE. Just gonna keep raining it down on him. The other Kitakaze is helping me a bit, but I want to get this guy killed as soon as possible so we can secure this cap. When he dies, I will hopefully get undetected, and since I will no longer be radar spotted. And I do get undetected. And I land a torpedo hit. That's very important, because that tells me that my prediction on the King George was perfect. It tells me the King George is coming this way. The Neptune was last seen sailing around to the outside flank of the D cap. So he's most likely no longer a factor here. He's going around all the way around the islands. He's playing it super safe, but the good part is this allows me to play aggressive around the D capture point because there's no risk of that cruiser pushing me. So while the Neptune is on an adventure, we're gonna see if we can punish this King George. I'm almost certain I hit with torpedoes. And we do get vision of him. He just shot. Perfect. We smoke up and it's time to start farming. The torps were in case he would turn in, but looks like he's gonna start sailing. He's gonna be sailing full broadside. It doesn't matter, we're gonna make it rain. The King George, of course, has almost no armor against our HE. It's like 25mm armor all over the place. Not to mention, he doesn't have, well, he doesn't have damage con because he had to repair the flooding. So this guy is in a horrible situation. The Neptune pops up exactly where we predicted he would. I'm moving a bit in the smoke in case there's blind fire, which there is. There's also the risk of the Mayoko torping me. He got spotted on the minimap, so never mind. No, there is no longer any risk. So we're just gonna sit here and farm and finish this kill off. Because if we get this guy down, we've turned it from a 4 versus 7 into a 4 versus 5. So this would make life a lot easier for us. Another fire. He's trying to dodge, he's trying to juke, but I spoke about this sequential fire, just letting it rain, and it's a good way of getting guaranteed damage on a target that is actively trying to avoid it. That's our Kraken. and that's a very important kill secured for our team. 4 versus 4 now, but my Atlanta is almost certainly going to die. There is no way my Atlanta will survive that. He's picking a fight with the Neptune, and in the open like that, with that little health, he's almost guaranteed going down. His best choice would be to stop firing and get undetected, but I think it's unlikely he will make this choice. I'm very glad I saved that smoke though, because you saw how important it was in securing the King George. Shooting a King George in the open is kind of scary because of that heavy, hard-hitting HE. I don't have my torps ready, and in this case I would actually like to shoot this Neptune. I would like to start farming him. The issue is, if I start shooting him now, the Mayoko will have HE loaded, coming around the corner, and he will block me for a massive amount of damage. So I need to prioritize. We need to prioritize what targets we go for first. In this case, the easy to kill, big threat, close range threat is the Mayoko. And we know he's very low because we landed the torps, so we're just gonna go with HE in case he's angled, just to make sure we can secure this easy fast kill before we even consider the Neptune. We catch the Mayoko coming around the corner. He had AP loaded, of course. He was trying to shoot the cruiser, so we don't really take much damage at all, and because he didn't know we were there, well, complete surprise, and we secure the kill. And now we can start focusing on the Neptune. The Neptune has 22k health, but what did I mention about these cruisers at long range? They don't really have an easy time landing shells on the agile, fast Neptune. Add in the fact that, of course, it's a fast-hitting DD, but more importantly, look at that damage. I'm running Demolition Expert. This is basically my farming build that I run in random battles, so I have a very good fire chance of 7%. Because of how many shells you throw out, you actually end up starting a lot of these fires. Note that I'm slowing down. Once again, with speed boost, I'm actively juking, I'm turning left and right, I'm slowing down, accelerating, and the Neptune realizes, uh-oh, this is not going the way we planned. This is not going the way we planned at all. This is 200k raw DPM coming at him from this Kitakaze. He's got no way to mitigate this, almost no shatters. He's trying to slow down, to smoke up, trying to quickly avoid it, but it's far too late. He tried to damage Conda Fire to get undetected, no chance, and he also melts under the Kitakaze. So, a lot of people play too conservative when it comes to picking gunfights with the Kitakaze. The Kitakaze is, in my opinion, absolutely overpowered. I don't think there's any real argument to be made about that. The Kitakaze is far too powerful for a tier 9 destroyer. And these examples against the Cleveland and the Neptune kind of highlight that. You have insane cruiser DPM on a stealthy platform with smoke and no citadel, of course, and torpedoes, and you got so much utility, so much carry potential packed into one single ship. Now I make sure I secure this cap because it's still, if I'm not sure if my Akatsuki is gonna die. I don't know what my Misori is doing. I think he's stuck on the island or something. So we're gonna secure the cap just to make sure that my team doesn't do something silly like throw this match away, which is honestly a very likely turn of events based on what I've seen, especially during these weekend games. Well, this was actually on a Monday, but every day is weekend nowadays. Let's just leave it at that. So what we're going to do is see if we can help with the Akatsuki. It doesn't look like there's any need. The Akatsuki gets killed by the Misori. Looked like a radar. He was stuck between a Misori and a Kitakaze. Not the best position. At this point, this game is pretty much guaranteed won. I don't think it's even possible for my team to throw this, and even I can die, and it's probably going to be, well, it's absolutely going to be a win. So there's no more risk. A Musashi was spotted down south. Now, the Musashi has not many options left. His nose was pointed towards C, so it's more than likely he will push straight into C, or he will push between A and C, trying to play aggressive. So, but the most probable line path he will take is sailing straight into C, try to contest the objective, and maybe get some kills on the way. That's like the best path for him to take. So I expect him to pop up right in front of my face here, and this is exactly what we want. We want to go and pick the fight, we want to bolster our game, because the match is already won, but we can still get a better win out of this at this point. We can still farm some damage, have a bigger impact on... get a better daily win, basically. That's always something you should look out for. Once the game is won, you can play a bit more reckless, which is what I'm doing here. I know the Musashi is about to pop up. I'm almost certain of it. I'm just sitting here waiting. Will he get spotted? Will he get spotted right in front of me? And there he is. Our prediction is perfect. Once again, we In general, you want to think of what would you do if you were the player, and you usually get a pretty good idea. Now, I don't know which way he's going to turn, and his guns are turned away. Musashi turret reverse is, of course, atrociously slow, so I know it's going to take a while for him to turn his guns if we start farming him right now. And he's turning his guns, but we're already smoking up. I expect him to either turn in, slow down, anything, because if he chooses to turn away, well, that would probably be the worst decision for him, because he's got no way of winning the game if he turns away. Running away at this point is like trying to save your star in ranked, except it's random battles. And surprisingly, that's exactly what he does. I move out of the smoke to get vision. I'm trying to bait him into shooting so I could get him spotted. Not entirely sure what he's doing. We start a fire on him, we go back into our smoke. He never actually shot at us. He's just sailing around, I guess, playing super safe for some reason. Not really sure what it's about, but we do have vision of him now, and that's really all that matters. So that last smoke we saved, we're getting some value out of it now. In fact, if you look at my consumables, you might note that I've worked through all of them. This is of course running no superintendent, so I had to be a bit more conservative, a bit more safe with my consumables, but this was almost a full 20-minute game, and we made it just fine not running superintendent. And the fire chance build, of course, well, you can see it with all the fires we got burning on this poor guy. And even though he didn't rush in, we didn't sadly get our 8th kill, which was of course what we were hoping for picking that fight. We still managed to push our damage over 200,000, which is of course always a nice benchmark to work by. So the game ends, it is a win, 209k damage, Confederate, Kraken, high caliber, 7 kills, 14 fires, 2 solo caps and 4 cap resets. So overall a very solid game from the Kitakaze, and just shows how good it is, how good this ship is at fighting pretty much everything you can possibly fight. If we move on to the detailed report, only 2.9k base. I was actually expecting a bit more, but you gotta keep in mind that this was of course us being top tier. Whenever you're the top tier, you will also always get less XP. For example, I played a Luoyang game earlier where I didn't do nearly as much work, but I was against tier 10s, so I ended up getting way over 3000 XP. So it always scales based on that. But considering we were fighting a lot of tier 9s and stuff, it's still a pretty solid carry in terms of performance. Detailed report, of course, not too much spotting damage this game, but that's not really the Kitakaze's role either. There are situations where you need to spot, but in a high DD game like this, where you know there's someone else always going to be providing the spotting, you're actually more valuable bringing out the firepower, bringing out the Dakka and the support and melting the ships and helping your team in that way. And of course securing the objectives, which is also what I did. You can't go full damage focus and completely ignore the objectives either, because, well, then you're really screwing over your team and you're no better than the Musashi sitting in the back farming damage either. Damage though, 103k HE damage, no AP. Now, that's not to say that AP is bad. There were certainly plenty of situations where broadside AP could have dealt more damage, like the full broadside Cleveland, the full broadside Musashi at the end. Well, actually, Musashi didn't have damage con, so I still think HE is better for the fires. But if you get full broadsides, the AP is very good. But the thing with the IFHE HE on Kitakaze is that it allows you to play very lazy. You can always shoot HE at everything, and even though it might not always be the optimal choice, it's almost never really going to be a bad choice either. And that's really the beauty of running it. No Witherer, sadly. 14 fires, but they weren't really that effective. Only towards the end did we get some really effective fires, but sadly the game ended before the Musashi could burn down. So no 8th kill for us. Potential damage, 900,000. It's okay, but then again, the Kitakaze isn't really the kind of potential damage farmer unless a lot of people are trying to torp you. Anyway, let me show you guys my recommended build in this commentary. I tend to switch it around a bit. For this one, it was on the Russian server, so I'm running, of course, the demo expert build, which allows us to start so many fires. Right, as usual, let me start by showing you guys the modules. Now, probably one of the key points to upgrade is honestly the hull upgrade. It gives you so much health, and more importantly, it also gives you rudder shift. Health and rudder shift are both amazing. Now, a lot of torps, the torp upgrade is nice, but you can still do well with the 10km torps. It doesn't really offer you that much of a difference going for 12km ones, so the hull upgrade is absolutely the first. It gives you survivability in multiple different ways. Gunfire wise, the range is probably the second upgrade, just for the raw Daka power, and only then would I get the 12 km torps. Note that I never get the 8 km torps. I don't think there's any need for them. The whole point of F3 torps is to provide you with close range, hard to dodge power. That's really why you bring F3 torps. It's amazing on, well, it can work well on ships like the Shima and the Yogomo because they lack in that close range firepower, and having this huge torpedo threat at close range is very important. The Kitakaze doesn't need it, because why would it? It's got so much firepower. You don't want to be torping ships if they're within 8 kilometers. You want to be shooting them. You want to be farming them. You want to be gunning them down with your huge firepower. So the whole concept of the F3 torps doesn't synergize well with the Kitakaze at all. And of course, you probably noticed just how many long-range torpedoes I landed this game. Almost all of them were at very, very long ranges, and that's really the benefit of running these 12-kilometer ones. They give you more utility. That's more important than this close range power that you already have. So F3 torps, I completely skip them. I don't even research them. Ammunition and consumable wise, first priority should be damage control, followed by smoke, followed by probably torpedo reload and speed boost, in that order of importance. Upgrade wise, turret survival, turret and torpedo tube survival, your bread and butter. Engine survival, you can run of course the speed boost module if you want to, but personally, well, the Kitakaze is never really going to break any speed records exactly, and not having a broken engine is highly valuable as well. Either this or the speed boost, both are perfectly viable. Better dispersion on the guns and faster turret traverse. This one is kind of sketchy. I think that just going straight up for the AA is probably a much better choice. How's the AA? The AA is actually quite solid. I think this is a leftover from when I played this ship in ranked, and I think I was running this for the game as well, but I don't think it's optimal. I think you should absolutely for random battles you should run the AA, simply because it adds flak explosion to the salvos, which is highly valuable. Fourth upgrade, faster acceleration. You don't really need the rudder shift, it's 4.6, and more importantly, a faster rudder shift will not help you overcome the key problem, which is the fact that it's a long ship and it's got a large turning circle. Getting a rudder shift down like another second isn't gonna make it that much more maneuverable, whereas faster acceleration is gonna help you a lot more when you have to quickly dodge torpedoes. And finally, of course, concealment, very straightforward. More firepower, once again, very straightforward. That's where your damage comes from, that raw Daka. Build-wise, now it's very... The basic build is very DD, which basically means priority target, last stand, superintendent, concealment expert. Once you have concealment expert, now on any other DD I would probably go AR next, but because IFHE benefits this ship so much, 14 points I would go IFHE, 16 points adrenaline rush, and then you have 3 points left. And here there's a lot of flexibility. BFD is great, absolutely. Superintendent can be highly useful as well, but I really like Demo Expert for random battles. And the reason for this is it gives you a flat 2% increase, and your base reload running this build, or your base fire chance running this build, is actually only 5%. Which is pretty low, and you gotta understand how much it impacts your chance of starting fires when you go from a 5% chance of starting them to a 7% on a ship that throws out 8 shells every 2.6 seconds. Then you add in, of course, AR kicking in, and we're talking even more shells. This thing vomits out shells all the time, and increasing that fire chance from 5 to 7 is actually a huge increase in how many fires you're starting per game. So for random battles, I really love Demo Expert. For ranked, BFT might have been better just because you're fighting so many other DDs. For any sort of competitive, BFT might be the choice. Or if you're going for the long games, then Superintendent. If you're a new player and you're struggling with torpedoes, hell, you can even go Vigilance. There's a lot of flexibility of which of these 4 you're choosing. Personally, for randoms, I'd go Demo. For any sort of comp, I'd go BFT. But there's flexibility. I won't go straight up and say this is the only good choice. No, there's a lot of different things, but all the other ones I think are straightforward because they add either damage or survivability. And the last 3 points is up to you. Which one do you want? Do you want the raw survivability? Do you want the utility? Do you want the raw firepower against everything, or especially against farming battleships? It's up to you. Well, not only against battleships, starting fires on DDs keeps them spotted, which is very useful as well. Still though, flag-wise, once again, I would highly recommend running the fire flags. Because actually I kind of lied when I say the fire chance is 5, it's actually 4, but with fire flags it's 5. Once again, huge benefit going from 4 to 5% and even bigger than going from 5 to 7. So fire flags, speed flags and detonation flag, especially if you're playing ranked, but ranked has come and gone. And November Foxtrot for faster consumable usage. It's such a simple, easy thing. Everything else, economic flags for grinding. That's really all you need to do. You can run credit flags as well if you want to farm money, because Kitakaze is pretty good at that as well. Because, well, you tend to have such good games, because I think the ship is a bit too much in its current state. Anyway, that was my second Kitakaze commentary of 2019. I'm kind of expecting to see the ship get toned down. I'm gonna be real honest with you guys. I don't think the Kitakaze is gonna last in its current state. There's a couple of ships that I've been looking at, and I think it's only a matter of time before wargaming goes, you know what, you guys have had your fun, it's time to put an end to this, and I think Kitakaze kind of fits that territory. But until that happens, well, enjoy. The ship is stupidly powerful for a tier 9 silver ship, unlike the premium ships that are also stupidly powerful, but you have to pay for them. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys later, have a great one, thank you for watching.